The galaxy had long been a place of balance and order, ruled by ancient and powerful empires. To them, humanity was little more than a curiosity, primitive, disorganized, and easily overlooked. Humans had made their mark on Earth, and a few scattered colonies, but in the grand scheme of galactic politics, they were an insignificant footnote. Their technologies were crude by comparison, their military forces a far cry from the advanced fleets of the Skrikari or the Sothar. Yet the Great Collapse had changed everything. A massive cosmic event, triggered by a long-forgotten supernova, had sent ripples through the galaxy. Star systems that had once been stable now teetered on the brink of destruction. Communications between the galaxy's various empires broke down, and civilizations that once held sway began to crumble. The balance of power was shattered, and the once infallible alien empires found themselves scrambling to survive. Among the chaos, humanity stood at the edge of oblivion. But instead of succumbing to the crisis, humans began to do what they had always done best: adapt. In the shadows of the galactic collapse, the Human Federation, a coalition of Earth's colonies and outlying worlds, began a quiet resurgence. Led by brilliant military minds, scientists, and strategists, the Federation started to unlock the mysteries of the ancient, forgotten technologies buried deep within their homeworld's archives. In the heart of the Federation's military command, Captain Kira Drake stood over a holographic display of their most recent findings. The archives, once thought lost to time, held blueprints for advanced technologies humanity had barely begun to understand. These weren't just weapons, though. They were pieces of a larger puzzle, a blueprint for survival in a galaxy that had grown ruthless. "Kira, we've hit the jackpot," Lieutenant Samuel Price said, his voice crackling with excitement. "These documents, they show us how humans overcame impossible odds in the past, how we survived when the universe seemed determined to wipe us out. We're sitting on an arsenal of forgotten knowledge." Kira's eyes scanned the documents, absorbing each revelation with growing urgency. The blueprints revealed secrets of biological enhancements, energy-based weapons far beyond anything currently in their arsenal, and military tactics that would leave even the most powerful alien fleets reeling. But it wasn't just the technology that fascinated her. It was the spirit of humanity encoded in every line of data. Humans had survived catastrophes far worse than what the galaxy could throw at them, and that resilience was humanity's true weapon. "We've been underestimated, Price," Kira said, her voice calm but steely. "The galaxy thinks of us as weak. It's time to change that. We'll use this knowledge to show them what humanity is capable of." Kira's team worked tirelessly, decoding the old archives and reverse engineering the technology hidden within. As they pieced together the fragments of this lost human history, they began to see a clearer picture. Humanity had faced galactic-scale threats before. The last remnants of a forgotten war told stories of human soldiers who, against all odds, outsmarted and outlasted their alien enemies. These stories were more than just history. They were a testament to the indomitable spirit of humankind. But there was more. As Kira dug deeper, she uncovered something far more terrifying than any weapon. There were hints of a dark force, an empire that had been watching humanity from the shadows for centuries. The Sothar Dominion, a brutal and expansionist alien empire, had been studying Earth for years, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And now, with the galaxy in chaos, they saw the humans as the perfect target for annihilation. Kira's heart raced. Humanity was on the verge of being wiped out before it even had a chance to rise. But she knew one thing for certain: humanity would not go down without a fight. The weapon they needed was not just technology. It was the human will to survive, to adapt, to strike when no one expected it. This was the spark that would ignite the fire of resistance. The galaxy was about to witness something it had never seen before: the rise of a species that had once been forgotten, now unleashed and ready to reshape the stars. The hidden spark of humanity was about to burn brighter than any star in the galaxy. The aftermath of the Great Collapse had left the galaxy in a state of chaos. Civilizations, once thought invincible, now found themselves facing instability. Power struggles erupted, empires began to fracture, and old alliances were tested. While the galaxy's great powers scrambled to fill the vacuum left behind, there was one force they hadn't counted on: humanity. In the dimly lit war room aboard the Federation flagship Resolute, Captain Kira Drake stared at the holographic map that displayed the galactic landscape. Human forces, though small, were steadily expanding their influence in this post-collapse world. Humanity had quietly begun to carve out a network of covert operations and secret outposts, all working in the shadows, all working toward a singular goal: survival and, ultimately, dominance. "We've got one shot at this," Kira muttered, her eyes narrowing as she traced the routes of secret supply lines and hidden bases on the map. "The galaxy thinks we're weak, but it's time they learned the truth. We're not just surviving. We're organizing." Lieutenant Samuel Price, her trusted second-in-command, stood beside her, tapping a console. "The other empires are so focused on their own survival, they haven't even noticed our operations. But we can't keep hiding forever." Kira smiled grimly. "Exactly. It's time we started making moves." Humanity's newfound advantage wasn't just technological. It was something far more dangerous: the ability to adapt. As Kira's team carefully analyzed alien tactics, they recognized one fundamental flaw among the galaxy's advanced civilizations: their predictability. The Skrikari, known for their overwhelming military strength, moved in straight lines. The Tsark Collective, with their psychic abilities, relied heavily on mental control. The Xothar, brutal and efficient, depended on their sheer numbers. All of them had patterns, habits, weaknesses. Humans, however, had always survived by breaking the rules. They had thrived by being unpredictable, resourceful, and relentless in the face of adversity. The more Kira studied the alien strategies, the more certain she became. Humanity had a unique advantage in this chaotic galaxy. "Time to start spreading the chaos," Kira said, her voice sharp. "We need to target key installations, energy hubs, communications relays, anything that could cripple their operations. We'll make them question every move they make." As the Federation's elite operatives executed the plan, they struck at the heart of alien empires with shocking precision. A Skrikari fuel depot in a remote system went up in flames, causing a critical shortage of resources for their war fleet. The Tsark Collective, whose reliance on telepathic communication was their greatest strength, had their systems hacked, triggering mass confusion across their command centers. Even the mighty Xothar Dominion, with its near-unbeatable military might, found its key bases sabotaged from within, leaving them scrambling to find the source. The galaxy's empires could feel the disturbance. The strange, seemingly random disruptions were unsettling, but no one yet knew who was behind them. Most dismissed it as internal sabotage or the actions of a rogue faction. But for the humans, each operation was a carefully orchestrated move, meant to destabilize, to confuse, and to weaken their foes. "We're making waves," Price remarked, standing in front of a screen showing the latest reports of alien confusion. "They don't know it yet, but we're already inside their heads." But not all was quiet. The Xothar, in particular, were beginning to grow suspicious. The disruption in their command structure, coupled with the damage to their resources, had led to an unexpected development: a full-scale investigation into the mysterious human threat. Their military forces began scouring known human colonies, looking for any sign of rebellion or subversion. In response, Kira and her team doubled down on their covert operations. They used the very chaos they had caused as a shield, slipping deeper into enemy territory, learning, sabotaging, and preparing for the day when they could strike with everything they had. Yet, even as humanity's influence grew, Kira knew the stakes were rising. The Xothar Dominion would not remain passive for long, and the other empires would soon turn their attention to the Federation. Time was running out. Humanity had ignited the first spark of rebellion, but they were still far from ready to confront the galaxy's greatest powers head-on. The storm was coming, and the galaxy would soon feel its fury. Cliffhanger. As Kiera stared at the incoming reports, one message stood out. The Sothar fleet is on the move, heading toward human-controlled space. The fight for survival was no longer a matter of hiding in the shadows. The time for the Federation to act had arrived. The galaxy was on edge. The Sothar Dominion, having finally pieced together the clues, had launched a full-scale mobilization. Their fleet, the most feared in the galaxy, was now heading toward human-controlled space. The Federation had no choice but to prepare for an all-out war, but there was one problem. Humanity was still vastly outnumbered and under-equipped compared to the Sothar's formidable forces. Captain Kiera Drake stood in the Federation's command center, her fingers clenched around the edge of a holographic table. The screen in front of her displayed the approaching Sothar fleet, a monstrous armada that stretched across light years of space. Every instinct told her to flee, to retreat into the vastness of human space and regroup. But that wasn't an option anymore. "We don't have the luxury of time," Kiera said, her voice low but filled with resolve. "We've stirred the hornet's nest. Now we fight." The room buzzed with tension as her senior officers, including Lieutenant Samuel Price, gathered around her. They had made progress. Humanity's small, covert operations had been incredibly successful, but those had been tactical strikes, not full-blown confrontations. Now, with the Sothar approaching, it was time to face them head-on. "We analyzed their fleet's movements," Price said, pulling up a digital map. "The Sothar are coming in 2 waves. The first wave will hit the outermost colonies first, while the main force will move in after that, targeting the heart of human space." Kiera nodded, the gears turning in her mind. "We can't afford to waste any time. We need to hit them hard and fast before they can establish a foothold. If we can take out their command ships, we can cripple their entire operation." As the Federation scrambled to bolster their defenses, Kiera's fleet, a ragtag group of ships that had been cobbled together over the last few years, began preparing for a series of surgical strikes. Humans had always relied on ingenuity, and they had learned from their covert operations how to use guerrilla tactics against the might of the Sothar. "Disrupt their communications first," Kiera ordered. "The Sothar are used to operating with centralized command structures. If we sever their communication, we'll isolate their ships and force them into chaos." The strategy was risky. If they failed, the Sothar would overwhelm them quickly. But there was no other choice. The Federation's survival depended on the humans being unpredictable, nimble, and quick to strike before the Sothar could mobilize their full strength. With the operation underway, Kiera led a team of elite soldiers on a covert mission to disable the Sothar's communications relays, located in an abandoned mining colony on the edge of human space. Meanwhile, the Federation's fleet began to target the outermost Sothar ships, hitting them with hit-and-run tactics that disrupted their formation. As the first wave of human ships darted in and out of the Sothar fleet, the chaos was immediate. The Sothar had never encountered this kind of warfare, small, swift, and brutal. Their advanced ships were designed for direct combat, not the subtlety of human guerrilla tactics, but the humans' quick thinking and adaptability put the Sothar on the back foot. It was a cat-and-mouse game, one that the Sothar were struggling to keep up with. The humans had learned how to outwit the Sothar, using every advantage the collapse had left them. It wasn't long before the Sothar began to panic, their communications broken, their ships scattered and disorganized. "Captain, we've done it." Price's voice crackled over the comms. "Their command ships are isolated. We can hit them now." The Federation fleet moved into position, prepared for their final assault. As the fleet dropped out of hyperspace near the Sothar's command center, Kiera's heart raced. This was it, the moment they either broke the back of the Sothar or became their next victims. "We strike fast. No hesitation," Kiera ordered. "This is our chance to cripple them. If we fail, humanity's future will be dark." With a roar of engines and a barrage of energy blasts, The human ships launched their assault. The Tsothar were caught off guard, their ships unable to react fast enough to the Federation's rapid strikes. Kira's flagship, the Resolute, led the charge, a symbol of humanity's grit and determination in the face of insurmountable odds. For a brief moment, it seemed like the humans might actually pull it off. But just as victory seemed within their grasp, a new threat emerged from the depths of space. A massive fleet, much larger than the first wave, dropping out of hyperspace behind them. The second wave, Price said, his voice full of disbelief. They were waiting for us to make our move. The humans' victory was short-lived. The Tsothar fleet had reinforcements, and the humans were now caught in a pincer. Desperation set in as the Federation ships attempted to regroup, but the overwhelming power of the Tsothar's main force threatened to crush them. Cliffhanger. Kira gritted her teeth. We can't back down now. We fight for every inch. The battle was far from over, and humanity's survival depended on their ability to adapt to the escalating chaos. The battle raged on. The Federation's fleet was outnumbered, and the sudden arrival of the second wave of Tsothar ships had thrown their carefully laid plans into chaos. The humans, however, were relentless, unwilling to accept defeat even in the face of overwhelming odds. The Tsothar, caught off guard by humanity's resilience, were beginning to feel the sting of their miscalculation. Captain Kira Drake gritted her teeth as she watched the chaos unfold from the bridge of the Resolute. The battle was far from over, but the humans' tactical brilliance was making a significant dent in the Tsothar forces. Despite the overwhelming numbers, the Tsothar were struggling to adapt to humanity's unpredictable style of warfare. We've thrown them off balance, Kira muttered. But it won't last. We need reinforcements. Lieutenant Samuel Price glanced at the tactical screen, his brow furrowed. We're surrounded, Captain. The second wave is too strong, and they've begun to regroup. We need a way to strike at their command ships, cut the head off the snake. But the problem was that the Tsothar's command ships were heavily protected. They were surrounded by a swarm of warships and fleets that formed a near-impenetrable wall. Getting through would require more than just a simple strike. It would take a surgical, precise attack that could dismantle their chain of command before the Federation was completely overwhelmed. Then, as Kira was about to voice her frustration, a sudden, unexpected message cut through the noise. It wasn't from any of her ships or the command center. It came from deep within the Tsothar-controlled space. It was an encrypted signal, too perfect to be a coincidence. Captain, Price said, his eyes widening in surprise. This message. It's from one of the Tsothar command ships. It looks like it's being sent by an insider. Kira's mind raced. An insider? Had the Federation somehow infiltrated their ranks? Was this a trap? She didn't trust anything from the Tsothar. But a voice on the other end of the transmission was clear and unmistakable. We can help you, but you must trust us. The time has come to break the Tsothar dominion from within. The message was brief and cryptic, but the implications were staggering. An alien, someone within the Tsothar ranks, was offering help to the humans. Kira's instincts screamed that it could be a trick, but the situation was desperate. What other choice did they have? We need to take the risk, Kira said firmly. This might be the opening we've been waiting for. Without hesitation, she ordered the fleet to withdraw into a more defensible position, using the confusion of the ongoing battle to conceal their movements. They had to find out who was behind the message. And, if it was legitimate, they had to determine how they could use this unexpected ally to their advantage. As the Federation ships regrouped and moved into a more secure formation, Kira led a small team to the Resolute's secure communication room. The encrypted message was intercepted from the Tsothar fleet, but the signal was coming from an unlikely source, a mid-level officer within the Dominion's command structure. They had to be cautious. Whoever this person was, they were taking an enormous risk by communicating with humanity. The message says we're meeting at a neutral location, far from the Tsothar's core territories, Kira mused. They want to meet in person, away from prying eyes. Price raised an eyebrow. Are we really going to trust this? We're talking about an enemy who's been ruthlessly hunting us down for years. We don't have a choice, Kira said, her voice hardening. If this person can help us strike at their heart, we take the opportunity. The Xothar don't play by any rules. Neither will we. The humans set a course for the coordinates provided in the message, which led them to a desolate, uninhabited moon in a forgotten system. There, in the shadow of the moon's rocky surface, a single Xothar ship waited. It was small, unassuming, a stark contrast to the colossal warships that had been swarming human space. As the Resolute approached, the tension was palpable. Everyone aboard knew that this could be either the key to their survival or the most dangerous trap they'd ever walked into. The Xothar, notorious for their brutality and cunning, were capable of treachery beyond anything the Federation had ever faced. Kiara stood at the front of the bridge, staring down at the moon's surface as the Resolute prepared to dock with the Xothar vessel. The moment of truth had arrived. "Ready your teams," Kiara said. "If this is a trap, we'll make them regret it. But if it's real, we strike hard and fast. We have no time to waste." Cliffhanger. The air was thick with anticipation as the docking clamps engaged. The Federation team was about to meet with their supposed ally within the heart of enemy space, unaware of the truth that lay hidden in the shadows. Would this unexpected ally betray them, or could they truly change the course of the war? The docking clamps on the Resolute engaged with a resonating thud, sending a wave of tension through the crew. Every officer, every soldier aboard knew that the coming moments would decide the fate of humanity. The uncharted moon where they had landed was eerily silent. No sign of enemy reinforcements, no detectable traps, just the barren landscape stretching out in every direction, untouched by civilization. It was the perfect place for a meeting of secrets. Captain Kara Drake stood in front of the command center's bay doors, flanked by Lieutenant Samuel Price and a handful of her most trusted operatives. Her hand hovered just above the weapon at her side, instincts telling her that this meeting could go either way. She had no love for the Xothar, no trust in their kind, but the message had been clear. Someone within their ranks was willing to risk everything to help humanity. The problem was, she couldn't tell if this was a game or the key to winning a war. "We're going in," Kira said, voice steely with resolve. "No one moves until I give the order." The air was thick with anticipation as the door slid open, revealing the quiet emptiness of the Xothar ship. The interior was sleek and unfamiliar, its walls pulsing with soft, glowing light that cast an almost otherworldly atmosphere over the small meeting room ahead. At the far end of the chamber stood a figure, the Xothar, but one who was unlike the others Kara had faced. This one's posture was less rigid, less menacing. He was tall, with dark blue scales that shimmered under the light, but there was something in his eyes, something that felt different. "Captain Drake," the Xothar said in a voice that was calm, even respectful. "I am Merrick, and I have been sent to offer you the one thing that can turn the tide of this war." Kara didn't let her guard down. "And what exactly are you offering, Merrick? Why risk everything to help us?" Merrick's expression remained unreadable, but there was a faint glimmer of something almost like pity in his gaze. "I do not serve the Dominion out of loyalty. I serve because it is the way of my people, but I do not believe in their cause. The Dominion is not the future of the galaxy, Captain. You and your species, however, you have something that they do not. The will to change, the will to fight even when all hope seems lost." Kara narrowed her eyes. "What do you want in exchange?" "A simple thing," Merrick replied. "The Dominion's corruption runs deep. They've turned against their own in their endless pursuit of power. I can give you access to their command codes, their fleet networks, even their most secret military installations. But in return, you must promise me this. When the war is over and the Dominion falls, you will not let their ideals spread again." Kara's mind raced. Could they trust this Xothar? The offer was tempting. Access to their entire military infrastructure, the very heart of the enemy they were fighting. If Merrick's intelligence was genuine, It could be the key to crippling the Dominion once and for all. But Kiera had heard whispers of dissidence within the Dominion before. What if this was just another plot to sow further chaos? "You're asking us to destroy everything they stand for," Kiera said slowly. "But why would we want to keep the ideals of the Dominion from spreading? If we win, we will decide what the galaxy becomes." Marek shook his head. "I am not asking you to reshape the galaxy in the Dominion's image. I am asking you to ensure that the ideals of conquest, of ruthless control, do not take root again. It's not just the Dominion that must fall. It's their way of thinking. For you and your people to thrive, you must not allow this galaxy to continue in the same patterns of domination." There was a long silence. Kiera turned to Price, her second in command. He stared at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of caution and hope. The stakes were high. They couldn't afford to make the wrong decision. "You want to help us bring down your own people," Kiera said finally, her voice colder now. "Why? What's in it for you?" "I want the galaxy to survive," Marek said simply. "The Dominion will burn this galaxy to the ground, whether you fight them or not. But you, Captain Drake, can end that. Humanity can end that. And I want a future where my people do not destroy everything that comes after us." It was a difficult proposition. Could they trust him? Could they risk everything on the offer of a single dissident? Kiera's eyes never left Marek. She could sense his sincerity, but that didn't make this any less dangerous. That Sothar had been humanity's enemy for too long, and an alliance with one of them seemed unnatural, wrong even. "We'll need a guarantee," Kiera said, voice unwavering. "We need more than just codes and intel. We need a way to strike at the heart of their power, something that will cripple their fleet, something that won't leave us exposed." Marek nodded, his eyes flashing with determination. "I can give you that, Captain. But you must trust me, and you must act swiftly. The longer you wait, the more the Dominion will turn its focus on you. The clock is ticking." Cliffhanger. Kiera stood silently, weighing the words that could determine humanity's future. Could she trust Marek and take the risk of accepting his help? Or was this yet another trap, one designed to lead humanity to its doom? The moment of decision was fast approaching. Kiera stood motionless, her gaze locked onto Marek. His words echoed in her mind, a weight pressing down on her shoulders. She knew the consequences of a wrong decision. The Federation was already fighting for its life. Another mistake could mean annihilation. Yet something in the Sothar's eyes, something beyond the cold facade, made her hesitate. "I'm not in the business of making deals with the enemy," Kiera finally said, her voice steady but cold. "But right now, I have no choice but to entertain this one. You'll get your guarantee, Marek. But you must know, if you betray us, if this is a trap, I will make sure you regret it." Marek's face betrayed no emotion, but Kiera could see the subtle nod he gave. He understood the gravity of the situation. "I do not betray my word, Captain. The Dominion's power is built on lies, and their ultimate downfall will come from the truth. You will have my full cooperation, and with it, the chance to destroy them." Kiera turned to her team, giving them a brief nod. This was a gamble, but they had no choice. "Prepare for a full-scale attack," she said. "We're moving forward with this. Let's make sure we have all the intel we need before we commit." The Federation crew sprang into action, securing the data from Marek's systems and cross-checking it for potential traps. With each passing moment, the tension on the bridge mounted. Kiera knew they had to act fast. The longer they delayed, the higher the chance that the Sothar might change their minds or, worse, anticipate their movements. The information they had gathered was nothing short of groundbreaking. Marek had provided access to critical Sothar command codes, fleet deployment data, and even detailed maps of their military outposts. But the most important piece of intel was a secret weapon, an energy-draining device hidden deep within the heart of the Sothar fleet, capable of incapacitating their ships without direct combat. "The Sothar will be vulnerable," Price said, scrolling through the data on a nearby console. This could level the playing field. If we hit them with this, their entire command structure will crumble. Kiera stood in silence for a moment, contemplating their next move. "I don't trust this," she muttered under her breath, but the weight of her decision was undeniable. The Federation needed this victory, and Marek had given them a rare opening. If they failed, humanity's future would be snuffed out by the Sothar's overwhelming might. But if they succeeded, "We strike at dawn," Kiera declared, breaking the silence. "No more waiting. We hit them hard, we take out the weapon, and we cripple their fleet." The Resolute and its fleet prepped for the attack. The mood was grim, but there was also an underlying sense of urgency. They had no time to second-guess themselves. If Marek's intel was correct, they could cripple the Sothar's ability to fight back, leaving them vulnerable to a full assault. As the Federation fleet moved into position, Kiera received another encrypted message, this time from Marek. The Sothar are already mobilizing in response to the destruction of their command network. "You are running out of time, Captain." Kiera's grip tightened around the armrest of her chair. "I know. We're going in now." The Federation fleet moved swiftly through the darkness of space, approaching the location where the Sothar fleet was hiding their secret weapon. The ship's sensors pinged, detecting the massive energy signature radiating from an uncharted nebula. The weapon, as described, was hidden deep within its turbulent clouds, a brilliant beacon of energy that had the potential to shut down entire fleets with a single burst. As they neared the nebula, the first signs of the Sothar fleet emerged from the clouds, forming a defensive perimeter around the weapon. Kiera's heart raced. This was it, the moment they had prepared for. Every decision had led to this point. "Ready the strike team," Kiera ordered, her voice sharp. "We need to take that weapon out before they can react. Price, you're with me." The Resolute and its accompanying ships moved into attack formation, their weapons primed and shields up. Kiera could feel the weight of the moment, the heavy responsibility bearing down on her. The Federation's survival depended on this strike. The Sothar fleet, though massive, was now disoriented by the chaos caused by their own fractured command structure. As Kiera's ships closed in, they launched their initial salvo. The Sothar responded with furious retaliation, but the humans were fast and precise, hitting targets with pinpoint accuracy. But then, just as victory seemed within their grasp, a massive warship, larger than anything Kiera had seen before, appeared from the nebula's edge. It wasn't a standard Sothar ship. This one was different, more advanced, and it carried an eerie, oppressive energy. Kiera's stomach dropped. "What is that thing?" Price's voice crackled through the comms, disbelief clear in his voice. "That's the Sothar Tyrant, their flagship. We didn't know they had one. They're not just fighting for survival. They're preparing for something much worse." Cliffhanger. The Tyrant's weapons fired, sending shockwaves through the Federation fleet. It was a beast of unimaginable power, and its presence on the battlefield meant one thing. The Sothar weren't just defending their empire, they were preparing for war on an entirely new scale. The Sothar Tyrant loomed like a shadow over the battlefield, its colossal form cutting through the void as its weapons discharged, slashing through the fabric of space itself. The energy blasts sent shockwaves across the Federation fleet, rattling every ship in the vicinity. Kiera's stomach tightened as she watched the damage unfold. This wasn't just any warship. It was a weapon of mass destruction, and it was headed straight for them. "Captain," Price's voice cracked through the comms, panic creeping in despite his usual calm demeanor. "We can't match that ship. It's too advanced. Its shields are off the charts. We're wasting energy just trying to break through." Kiera's eyes narrowed as she watched the massive warship fire again, targeting the Resolute with terrifying precision. The blast tore through the fleet's defenses, sending smaller ships into a spin as their shields flickered and failed. The Sothar were taking the upper hand, and if something didn't change, this would be humanity's last stand. "Hold steady," Kiera ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Price, I need you to find a weakness in that thing's shield array. We have to hit it before it gets any closer. Understood, Captain. I'm working on it, Price responded, his fingers flying over his console. Kira stood up from her seat, her eyes scanning the holographic map of the battlefield. The rest of the fleet was struggling, ships trying to maintain formation while dodging relentless fire from the tyrant. But there was something Kira noticed as she analyzed the data. The Xothar fleet, while larger and stronger, had lost much of its cohesion. The initial chaos from their fractured command structure had left them vulnerable to counterattacks. If they were going to win, they needed to strike now. All ships, break formation and target their engines, Kira barked. We're not going to win this through brute force. We need to cripple their mobility. Price, I need a direct link to their reactor. We take that out. We take their power. The Resolute lurched as it veered out of its defensive position, dodging incoming fire. Kira's mind raced as she calculated their next move. The tyrant was the key. It had to be taken out, or all hope was lost. As the Federation ships adjusted their tactics, a flicker of uncertainty seemed to run through the Xothar fleet. The Resolute and its allies weren't backing down. They were adjusting, striking when least expected. They had the element of surprise on their side, something that Xothar, so used to dominating, hadn't anticipated. Captain, Price's voice cut through. I found it. There's a vulnerable spot in their engine core, a weak link. If we hit it with a concentrated energy blast, we can disable their reactor. Kira didn't hesitate. All ships, focus fire on the tyrant's engine core. This is our only chance. The Federation fleet shifted positions, moving in synchronized chaos as they converged on the tyrant. For a brief moment, it seemed as if the Xothar flagship didn't register the change in strategy, too confident in its invulnerability. But Kira knew better than to let their guard down. Every ship had to be in position. Every weapon had to fire in unison. Now, Kira commanded, her pulse quickening. The Resolute unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, followed closely by the rest of the fleet. The shots collided with the tyrant, striking the weak point that Price had pinpointed. The Xothar ship shuddered, its shields flickering violently as the blasts dug deep into its armor. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, the tyrant erupted in a massive explosion of energy. A ripple of shockwave spread outward, sending a burst of energy across the battlefield, rattling ships on both sides. Kira gritted her teeth. Did we do it? The holographic display flickered, then cleared to reveal the damage. The tyrant's engines were disabled, and its shields were down. But despite the visible damage, the Xothar flagship wasn't yet destroyed. It was limping, vulnerable, but still alive. We've crippled it, Price confirmed, his voice strained with relief. They've lost their power. It won't be able to move or fight back effectively. But the victory was short-lived. The moment the tyrant began to fall, the remaining Xothar fleet reorganized. They weren't about to lose their prized flagship without a fight. A fresh wave of warships surged forward, locking their sights on the Federation fleet. Kira's stomach sank as she realized what was happening. The Xothar were cornered now, desperate, and desperate enemies were often the most dangerous. They're going all in, Captain, Price said, his voice grim. We've taken out their command ship, but they're going to throw everything they have at us. They'll fight to the last ship. Kira's mind raced, but she didn't have the luxury of time. If they didn't finish this quickly, the Xothar would turn the tide of battle once again. She needed to act, and fast. Prepare the final strike, Kira ordered, her voice cold with resolve. We take out their fleet. We take out their war machine. We finish this now. The Federation ships powered up their remaining weapons, focusing everything they had left on the remnants of the Xothar armada. This was it, the final stand. If they didn't win here, humanity would be crushed under the heel of the Xothar. Cliffhanger. The Federation ships powered forward, their weapons primed. The Xothar fleet, though battered and broken, still had the strength to fight. The galaxy's future hung in the balance as the two sides prepared for one last, desperate battle. Would the humans finally defeat the Xothar, or would the Dominion prove to be an unstoppable force? The battlefield was chaos, a swirling storm of flashing weapons and twisting ships. The Tyrant, though crippled, was still looming large in the center, its hull cracked but refusing to die. The rest of the Xothar fleet, battered and desperate, rallied around their fallen flagship, determined to fight to the bitter end. The Federation fleet, though significantly smaller in number, had one advantage: their relentless will to survive, honed over years of war. They weren't going down without a fight. "Captain, they're regrouping," Lieutenant Price said, his voice strained. "The Xothar are positioning their ships for one final assault. They're throwing everything at us." Kira's heart raced as she watched the enemy fleet reorganize, preparing to launch a final offensive. They were cornered, outgunned, but not without teeth. The Federation's own ships were strained, shields weakening and energy reserves running low. She could see the desperation in her crew's eyes, hear the crackle of tension in the comms. This was it, the last chance to end the war. "Don't back down," Kira commanded, her voice steady. "We're not just fighting for our survival. We're fighting for the future of the galaxy. We end this now." The Resolute surged forward, its weapons charged and ready. The Federation fleet followed, splitting into smaller groups to break the Xothar's formations. The enemy had the numbers, but the humans had something more powerful: the fierce, unrelenting will to keep fighting when the odds seemed impossible. Price's voice rang out again. "Captain, we've detected a second power surge from the Tyrant. They're powering up their main cannon. If it fires..." Kira didn't wait to hear the rest. She saw the brilliant energy flare on the Tyrant's hull as it began to charge its final weapon. It was a devastating beam capable of obliterating entire fleets, and if it fired, it would turn the tide of the battle in the Xothar's favor. They needed to take it down before it fired. There was no other choice. "All ships, target the Tyrant's core reactor." "We have one shot," Kira ordered, her voice calm despite the rising pressure. "We can't let them fire that weapon." The Federation fleet rallied, launching everything they had at the wounded flagship. The Resolute was at the forefront, its main guns firing in rapid succession. Energy blasts lanced across the sky, striking the Tyrant with pinpoint precision. Each shot landed with a massive impact, but the Tyrant was still holding on defiant. The Xothar fleet, sensing the danger to their flagship, surged forward to protect it. Smaller ships darted in front of the Tyrant, using their own bodies as shields, desperate to save the flagship from total destruction. But it wasn't enough. The Tyrant was too large, too slow to evade the Federation's assault. The shots kept coming, pounding into its core. Kira's fingers were clenched tight around the armrest of her chair, sweat beading on her brow. "Hold steady," she muttered to herself. "We can't afford to miss." Then, in a blinding flash, the Tyrant's shields collapsed, leaving it vulnerable. The Federation fleet seized the opportunity, firing one final devastating shot at the heart of the flagship. The beam struck the reactor directly. For a moment, everything went still. The space around them seemed to hold its breath. Then the Tyrant erupted in an explosion that shook the entire battlefield. A massive shockwave radiated outward, destroying nearby Xothar ships in its wake. The flagship crumbled, its once immense form disintegrating into the void. The explosion sent debris scattering across the battlefield, the force of it breaking apart Xothar vessels that had been caught in the blast radius. Kira let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The Tyrant was gone. "Target the remaining ships," Kira ordered immediately. "We've broken their command structure. Now we finish this." The Federation fleet surged forward, targeting the remaining Xothar ships with brutal efficiency. Without the Tyrant, the Xothar fleet was in disarray. The once unified force had turned into a scattered collection of desperate ships trying to regroup. But it was too late. One by one, the remaining Xothar ships were eliminated, their shields failing as they tried to retreat. The Federation's superior tactics, honed through years of constant conflict, overwhelmed the Sothar at every turn. The battle was coming to a close. But just as Kiera thought victory was in her grasp, the comms crackled to life. A voice, Marith, came through, urgent, and filled with an edge of warning. Captain Drake, Marith's voice said, low and intense, do not celebrate just yet. The tyrant was not the only threat. There's something you don't know. The tyrant was only a decoy. The true weapon is hidden deeper within the Dominion. Kiera's blood ran cold. She turned to Price, her mind racing. What are you talking about, Marith? She demanded. We just destroyed your flagship. Your fleet is finished. No, Marith said, his tone shifting. What you've just destroyed is a symbol, not the weapon. The Dominion was preparing something far worse, something that could destroy everything. Kiera's pulse quickened as the implications hit her. This was far from over. The galaxy was not yet safe. Something even darker was looming on the horizon. Cliffhanger. As the Sothar fleet crumbled before them, a new, terrifying revelation came to light. The true weapon, the one that could undo everything the Federation had fought for, was still out there. Would humanity's victory be short-lived, or could they find a way to stop the final weapon before it was too late?